Welcome to Quest Givers and the first in our series of character generation videos. This is NPC Generator, and today we're going to create a Town Guard Captain.
If you're looking for adventure, grab the modules each month to support the channel and play the campaign with your gaming group. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
Now, as with the rest of all Quest Giver stuff, this is system agnostic, so you'll be able to use this in any fantasy tabletop role-playing game. Now, check out our website, questgivers.com, where you can buy our modules to help support the making of this channel. And of course, you will be able to pick up a PDF of this actual character, complete with a portrait, so you can actually throw this into any of your fantasy game worlds. Right, so Scotty, we've been talking about doing something like this for a while. Lots of channels will put out videos on, you know, this is how you put together a fighter, this is how you put together, you know, thing in that specific game. Well, we're going to talk about NPCs in general across the spectrum. So, you know, the Town Guard Captain, what kind of role does this character fulfill in the game?
The NPCs, of course, you want to have these key NPCs, right, to populate your game. You've got kind of the minor NPCs, and then you've got ones with more personality, and you want to develop them a little more, and that's kind of the idea behind this. But we're going to do the guard captain today, but we want to give him a certain attribute, so you kind of get an idea, like an archetype, so you get an idea like what kind of person you're dealing with, right? So what archetype are we dealing with today, Gareth?
Well, we have 12 archetypes to choose from, so we're going to use the mighty randomness of the D12 to discover what actually it is we're going to do today. So Scotty, let's roll that dice.
Here we go. I got a big old honking metal one right now. Here we go. And we got a 10.
Yes, 10! So that means we're going to be doing, let's just check the chart, a thinker. Well, that's a bit of an odd one. But let's do it anyway. So, you know, a thinker is basically a character that's quite contemplative. They think about the world, you know, they're into studying and that kind of stuff. So we're going to go through the sort of main attributes, so the drive, the goal, the weakness, the fear, the strategy, etc. of this character, and how we're going to put together a thinker town guard, or the Town Guard Captain. The first thing is the drive. What would drive a thinker?
I would think that it would be something like discovering the truth about what's going on. You know, if there's a crime, figuring it out, like going through the steps, deep thought about, you know, how, you know, the crime happened and this kind of thing. So I think you're going to have someone who's very thorough in how they approach investigations. You know, they're not just necessarily going to fly off the handle and arrest everyone. They want to, you know, they want to follow the leads. They want to follow the evidence and figure out where that takes them.
So it's really like the medieval gumshoe detective. So, you know, that's a great thing. You can think of characters like Columbo. What does Columbo do? How does Columbo speak? You know, this gives you some idea of what the character is going to say and how they're going to interact with the world. So that moves us to the goal. What would the goal be of a character like this? So really, they want to use their intelligence to analyze the world and to investigate the truth. So their goal is to really get to the nitty-gritty of it using their intelligence, and to really plow through everything analytically to figure out who done it.
And you know, that could be great or bad for the player characters, right? Because what if the player characters get arrested? This guy is going to be like very thorough, you know, super thorough and trying to you know, get the clues. So it may take a little longer than someone who's like, you know, oh, not really, you know, finding many clues. Okay, we'll let you out. This guy may be very thorough and take the time to do that. Also, you know, it may help the player characters actually, because the players may bring this character something, you know, that that proves that they're innocent, and that would really, or maybe prove somebody else's guilt, right? And that would really, he would be more apt to like kind of listen to that, you know, where a character who's more impulsive would just kind of fly off the handle and may not listen to the player characters. But a character who's a thinker is going to think about what the players are telling them and the ramifications of that. So I think that could be really interesting player character interactions.
It's kind of almost like here we'd have the Sherlock Holmes type characters. He doesn't, for him, it's not about the specifics of the person, it's about the various different elements that have made up the crime, you know, and he's just searching for the absolute truth rather than someone's version of the truth. So he'd be very analytical, or she be very analytical of what they're actually looking for, the actual truth of the matter. What do you think this character would fear?
I think this character would fear like ignorance. As someone who's a thinker would fear ignorance or being duped by somebody, right? So yeah, that could be really interesting if you have a fast talker in the party. He may not like that character. You know, he might be less inclined to believe a fast talker kind of character, a smooth character, than he would believe somebody else. So that could be some really interesting, you know, NPC interaction.
So it'd be more inclined to attempt to sort of find the emotional undertone and sensing the motivations of the character. So they would have trained themselves to kind of look beyond what the person is saying to them and try to figure out whether it's a truth or a lie, and they become almost like a human lie detector, or an orc lie detector. But yeah, so you don't need to take it to extremes. You can just have like this sort of the beginnings of that. So they're able to sniff out BS. So it would be more difficult against this character to kind of pull the wool over their eyes. I think that's a key component there.
And if there's a logical fallacy in their argument, in the player's argument, he would definitely be more apt to catch that, you know what I'm saying?
What sort of strategy do you think that it would implement? You know, like how does one go about, like, how does one put this into action as a character?
They would seek out, I think they would seek out information and knowledge first and foremost. But also remember that this person is a guard captain. They're trained in the arts of war, and they may not be above using violence. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's a thinker, it's still a guard captain. He has a job to do. If violence is called for, then I think that would happen. But I think he would go, you know, he would do the intellectual route first before he, you know, it came to blows, right?
Yeah, if you shifted this character to a more evil bent, you know, our character outline is sort of morally ambiguous, but if you shift him towards a more evil bent, then he'd like become a little bit more psychopathic, and then would start to use things like torture to get to what he desires. So it really takes it to the extreme. So you can do extreme good and extreme evil using the same profile, which I think is what's, you know, cool depending on where you drop this. So if you drop this character in Winter Bay, for example, in our modules, he'd tend more towards the good side, where if you dropped him in Dark City in Fusderberg, it would tend more towards the evil side, because those would be people that would be left in the military hierarchy.
Right, and intelligent people and thinkers are the most dangerous opponents. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
yeah, whether they're good or bad.
Sometimes you really got to watch it. You know, you really got to watch them trying to trap you intellectually into something.
Yeah, the next thing to consider is what kind of talent this person would have.
Yeah, I think a good talent would be, you know, someone who's a thinker and has, you know, has studied or, you know, thought about details, would be able to, you know, more easily call up information than someone who, you know, was less of a thinker. It'd be easier to dupe them and that kind of thing. So they'd be more apt to use that their talent like that to, you know, suss out information or think of something critical. You know, oh, I remember this or I remember that. Or a less thinking type character may just forget it or just gloss over it. You know, they may not even, well, think about that.
And finally, this brings us to the flip side of the coin. What's the weakness? So the weakness of a character like this really is that sometimes they think too much. They become so ingrained in the actual search for truth that they never actually put anything into any kind of action. So this would help the players because the investigation takes a long time, giving them plenty of opportunities to escape or kill witnesses or do whatever the characters want to do in order to get out of this mess. So that would be the weakness I think you would put into this character is, you know, although they're a Sherlock Holmes type character, they just keep on going and they do not stop. Like me, they don't stop talking, they just keep talking.
when you have characters, you want, or NPCs and characters, you want to have kind of, you know, some weakness, you know, that it's not only a penalty for the character, for the NPC or the character, but it makes them interesting because everybody has some kind of weakness or thing. So that just makes the character feel more alive and more human, or more, you know, more interesting, more human, and more relatable. You know, as you know, as a person, people ourselves. You know, it makes a person relatable, but it also gives your heroes a chance to utilize, like you said, utilize that weakness to their own advantage.
Their fear is that they're ignorant or they've made a mistake or something to that effect, but you can sort of bleed that into their weakness, is that their weakness exists because of their fear. So they don't want to make a mistake, so they keep this going and going and going. So you can feed one into the other, and so you could have characters introduced. Oh, well, have you thought about what the sky was like that day? That may be important. And then they go away and think about the sky for, you know, the 2 or 3 days, which gives the characters some more time, you know. So as players, that's how you can attack a character like that. And as a GM, you have to kind of drop these kind of hints that this guy's going to take a little bit too long to get to what needs to be there. So, like, okay, so if we're meeting this town guard, what's our first perception of this person? What do we see? Who's in front of us?
So I would see this person as, you know, you see that he's very methodical. That maybe that's the first thing you notice about him. He's very methodical, and you can see in his eyes there's always gears moving. There's always something going on back there, and you know, maybe physically, you know, they have like a larger forehead and receding hair, maybe, and maybe when when you're talking to them, you face to face, there's a vein, you know, in the side of their head that kind of, that's all you see move, this little vein that just pops up, you know, while he's just staring at you, you know, like glancing into you. It's almost like into your soul, you know. And so yeah, I see kind of an intense person, you know. That's what I kind of see.
I also see a longish beard that they can stroke as they stare you down and look you up and down. That's that classic sort of thinker. You know, when you're the GM, you want to kind of give the players hints of personality through actions and through details like how they appear, because it's a shortcut. It's like when we use terrain in our games. It's a shortcut to describe the environment, right? Well, describing the characters is a shortcut to their personality through their external features. It's important as a GM that you learn these kind of tricks, you know, to have these sort of, you know, the receding hairline, the eyes that are constantly staring, the vein, the beard. It kind of gives you that sense of this intelligent person that's staring down. You know, if your society has spectacles, he should have spectacles that he puts on to examine everything in minute detail. Thinking about gear, he should have a notebook. So there should be something like a notebook, or it almost looks like a wizard's tome. This guy's carrying around this book, and it's a book of all, you know, the scientific discoveries he's made, and like notes he's taken on town. He's got the list of who's doing good, who's doing bad. It's the Father Christmas good and bad list, naughty and nice. Something like that I think would be really cool, because you don't really think of a town guard captain as someone carrying around a book. So that makes it interesting. You want to know what's in the book, and just think about all the information that could possibly be in there as well. You know, and he would guard this book with his life, so it would be like his most important possession.
Yeah, so it's like always on him, right? But maybe the characters could somehow finagle something where they could try to maybe even steal the book temporarily while he's sleeping or something. But yeah, that's a really cool image of him, you know, always with this book. You know, he's constantly making notes in this book, and it's like this big tome. Maybe it's this big tome. It's not like, you know, a little teeny notebook. Like, it's like his book of knowledge. And yeah, that's great. That's a great image for you to project on for your, you know, players that may not be expecting, like you say, that kind of character to be carrying something like that.
Well, because it's a large book, it gives you that sense of the weight and importance of what this character places on. So he places a great importance on this huge tome that he carries around. So again, it's tying into like what type of character you're looking at. He's very definitely, you know, someone who, you know, is a knowledge-based character, because he's carrying around. It's like you see a wizard with a book, you know, it's a knowledge-based character. So in terms of what he's wearing, obviously being a guard captain, we'd need things like medals, and, you know, he'd take a little bit more pride in his position, I think. Would you think? Or would he be, maybe, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that?
I see an ordered mind and an ordered appearance, right? His beard is not crazy; it's all nicely done, you know. I see his uniform in good repair and nice looking. Maybe even sports a medal or two that he, you know, got from actually using his mind to figure out maybe some kind of major crimes or something. So yeah, I kind of see this character as an ordered character, an orderly character.
And other guards around him, what would their feelings be?
And that could be interesting, because you could kind of play on that. You could play on some guards respect that, and you know there are some guards who are just thugs, right? And some guards just want to beat people up. You know, they want to lord over people. So there might be some guards that maybe take bribes against the captain, or you know, that kind of thing. He's, you know, smarty pants. You know, some people, they get jealous of people who are intelligent, right? Or they're snooty or whatever. So you could have guards on both sides, guards that respect him, or maybe like an apprentice type guard who kind of follows him around a lot. And or other guard, maybe an older bully type guard who's just like, oh, he's just a know-it-all and he takes forever and that kind of thing. So you could have both sides of the coin, which could be really interesting role play. Because
now from one character, you've created an entire guard of guards for the town that all have differing opinions of the guard captain. I mean, they all have their duty that they've got to protect, but their opinions of people doesn't mean sort of need to gel with the duty that they're sworn to uphold. So you can really play with that, and then from that one character, you creating a more interesting town, because you've got all these things that are happening and going on, which really is what, you know, we like to have these NPCs as catalysts for, you know, you can create the rest of the people feeding off this one character. So you don't have to do as much work when you either, you know, in our game, or you're playing your own game, you're not playing our modules. You can use these characters to that kind of benefit to your story.
And you know, another thing with the lesser guards and everything, you don't have to you know, stat out and, you know, make up personalities for all these guards, like I just said. You know the main NPC, right? You know, if the characters try to, you know, find, if their goal is to find a guard who doesn't like the captain, you know, make that happen, because you got the reasons why the guard might not like the captain. He's snooty. He doesn't like that he's so intelligent and this kind of thing. So if they never go looking for that, don't worry. Don't waste your time making up all these other guards. If they never go for that, don't worry about that, because you've got the captain, and that's the thing that you can play off of. That's the NPC that you play off of, and you know the statistics and everything for this. You know the background and everything of the guard captain, so you can just invent those other minor NPCs as you need them, and as the player's like, oh, well, let's do this. Let's try to find a guard that likes him or doesn't like him, or that kind of thing. So I think that's a really great way to think about like these kind of major pivotal NPCs, not to make all these satellite NPCs, but make them up on the spot as they're needed.
And I think if this town guard were to be in combat, he would be quite the strategist. So it would involve things like ambushes. He would be one step ahead of you, this guy. So he'd be quite the military strategist in his own environment. Outside of his own environment, of course, that could be a different story. So, you know, if you take him out of the town and he's hunting the players down in the local forest or whatever, less inclined to be as strategic, because it's not his home ground. So, you know, that again, just think about that when you're taking this character from, you know, one environment to another. How does that shift their personality and their abilities? But definitely, I think he'd be definitely standing at back with a crossbow. Is that what you? I would think a crossbowman is where this guy comes from, and he can shout commands and move people around from a commanding position at the rear. So less likely to be face to face and more likely to send the people he doesn't like to the front.
Right. And like you say, with him being, 2 steps ahead of the characters, especially in town, he knows the town very well. A smart character knows that, if you ambush somebody, you have a huge advantage. So whether the players are asleep and they're drunk, they're passed out in the inn, or they're in their room, they're split up, those are the advantages that someone like this would take, and yeah, and definitely be commanding from the rear. Hey, do you want to come up with a like a catchphrase for him? I don't know.
It's like that. It's like, that CSI. This looks like murder. The spectacles. It's like, this is the phrase, you'll hear him speaking almost all the time when the characters are around. Scotty, what can we use for this guy?
I think a good one would be, I'll get to the bottom of this. And it's, if he suspects the characters, he's just always, he's always like saying that to them, oh, I'll get to the bottom of this, kind of thing. And even if they're innocent or whatever, it's just fun. But yeah, that could be a great catchphrase for him, I think.
Don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of this.
That we will. We'll get to the bottom of this.
So we hope you enjoyed this very first of our NPC generator videos. Of course, you can get this NPC on our website. The PDF is available. And thank you very much once again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one. See ya.
Hey, see you next time.